It's WIAA state tournament time and La Crosse's host site this year, which is a big deal. But getting this far has not been easy. News 19's Riley Kine shares the impact this season has had on these athletes mentally and physically.
Injuries can cause added stress and put athletes out for months at a time. But this year they weren't all they had to worry about. COVID-19 added another dimension of stress to their lives. I talked with healthcare professionals from Mayo Clinic Health System to learn more about what athletes have gone through in the last year and the continuous impact the pandemic has had. Mayo Clinic Health System is providing medical support at both the girls and boys WIAA state tournaments hosted in part at the La Crosse Center.
The plan is we'll have athletic trainers there, and then each of the games will have a physician or two there to help support for injuries. And also be working and assisting with the crowd if need be also.
These athletes can be proud that they've gotten to this point in their seasons, but it hasn't been without difficulty. Andrew Jagum, Director of Sports Medicine Research, worked on 2 projects looking at how COVID has affected young athletes. The first studied how the shutdown impacted training.
Because a lot of the schools and fitness centers and strength conditioning facilities were going to shut down, we had a feeling that was going to obviously impact the type of training and stuff that they were going to be able to do. And that's kind of what we found is a lot of athletes were self-reporting that they almost cut in half the amount of training that they were doing.
Specifically strength training, but researchers found the loss of any activity was cause for concern.
A, performance is likely to suffer, but then B, the risk of injury is likely to go up quite a bit as well.
The second study focused more on the after effects of COVID.
We kind of did a general physical exam like you would in any other clinical type of setting, but then also more strategically looking at any kind of cardiac abnormalities to see if they were suffering from any kind of specific kind of secondary outcomes related to that COVID infection, to see if their heart and lungs and things like that were impacted.
Out of 170 athletes, just 2 had cardiac related issues.
Based on what we saw, that was relatively good, indicating that there wasn't a high prevalence of severe cardiac complications.
These studies highlighted physical challenges, but Jagum says the mental impacts were even greater.
Definitely a lot of added stress and anxiety and frustration that a lot of these athletes have probably been experiencing for the better part of a year now. They just will say how frustrating it is to train for an entire season or off season, and then maybe even get up to the week of a game, and then you find out last minute that something may have been canceled, or when they find out post-season competitions are canceled or disrupted for whatever reason, it's really hard, for them to take that in stride.
Jagum says COVID-related issues will be something on everyone's radar as they provide medical support at the tournaments, but he doesn't anticipate a high risk for them. He says they are currently working with Mayo Clinic in Rochester to investigate how COVID has mentally impacted high school-aged athletes. The data will begin coming in this spring in order to work to understand further just how great the impact has been.
The boys' state tournament will be held next weekend in La Crosse and Oshkosh, March 4th, 5th, and 6th.